They came like a thunderstorm of metal and fire, blotting out the stars, swallowing Earth's orbit in shadow. 9,900 ships. Not drones, not scouts, warships, battle-hardened cruisers bigger than cities, and no warnings, no demands, no negotiations, just silence. Then the sky cracked open. I was on the lunar base when it started. One of the outer observation towers picked up the signal bursts right before the static hit. Then came the screams, cut off mid-sentence. Command collapsed in under 7 minutes. No chain of command, no fallback, just chaos and a cold vacuum wrapping around the moon like a noose. We didn't stand a chance. Earth's orbital defense grid never even fired, gone before their systems could initialize. Every satellite, every station, every civilian transport, all vaporized in the first strike. From where I stood, Earth looked like it was bleeding. The blue turned black, and flames traced the continents like someone had lit the world's veins on fire. I saw cities go out like candles. My name's Riker. No rank anymore. No country to fight for. No family left. Just one of the 17 who lived through the first 3 hours of the massacre. 17 ships, out of thousands. We didn't escape because we were better. We didn't survive because we were brave. We made it out because we were overlooked, left behind like trash. My ship, the Omen, wasn't even military. Retrofit cargo hauler. She wasn't fast, but she was dirty. Jammed her ID transponder years ago to run black market goods for outposts on Europa. Never thought that scumbag life would save me. But when their scanners swept for military-grade energy signatures, we didn't ping. And when their tracking systems locked onto every known vessel above Earth, we were already drifting in the shadows of Saturn's rings. That's where I saw the transmission. It wasn't meant for us, more like a recording they left behind, a message to whatever vultures would come after. One word. Extinguished. Like humanity was just a candle they'd snuffed out, a failed species, a bug on their windshield. They didn't know we were watching. They didn't know we still had breath in our lungs. They thought it was over. It wasn't. Not by a long shot. The other survivors were scattered. Some military, some criminal. One was a damn mechanic with a mining drill for a weapon. But every last one of them had fire in their eyes. They weren't heroes. They were broken men, angry, lost, dangerous, just like me. And that's when the idea was born. Not out of hope, not out of justice, out of hate. We were going to burn our way through the stars and make sure they remembered Earth. Not as a planet, not as a species. As the nightmare they should have killed completely. We didn't trust each other. That was the first rule. 17 ships, scattered across the void, connected only by emergency quantum relays and a shared trauma. We weren't a fleet. We were ghosts with grudges. No command, no plan, no flag to salute. Every one of us had crawled out of the wreckage with blood on our hands and loss in our bones. My relay lit up 3 days after Earth fell. Static at first. Then a voice, cracked and rough like it had clawed its way out of a coffin. "This is Thorn. Former Captain U.E.N. Hammerfall. If you're still breathing, reply." I didn't answer right away. Why would I? Could have been a trap. Could have been the same bastards who'd raised Earth, dangling bait to catch stragglers. But something in his voice, it wasn't polished, wasn't military clean. It was hollow. And that, more than anything, made me listen. So I replied, "Riker, cargo hauler Omen, still alive. Don't ask how." It didn't take long for more to join. By the end of the first week, we had 17 names. 17 men who should have been dead. Each ship had a story, each one a scar. There was Cade, a sniper who watched his entire battalion vaporized on the plains of Nairobi from a rooftop 3 clicks away. Santos, an engineer trapped under the ocean when the Neptune arcology was cracked open like an egg. He floated alone in the dark for 2 days until his emergency drone dragged him out. Vern, a drunk ex-pilot who'd stolen his own shuttle to escape a prison barge mid-execution. And Thorn. He wasn't just a captain. He was a wreck walking. Lost half his face and most of his crew when the Hammerfall went down over the Pacific. Somehow he got out in an escape pod with one functioning eye and a busted leg. The man was stitched together by luck and rage. They all had that look. The stare. Like the universe had kicked them too many times, and they were just waiting for their chance to kick back. We met in deep space, neutral ground near the ruins of Deimos Station. No one talked much. Just exchanged glances, scanned for weapons, and circled like dogs who didn't know if they should bite or bleed. Thorn floated in, limping even in 0G, his face hidden under a scorched helmet. He said 3 words that changed everything. They left a trail. Turns out, in their arrogance, the bastards hadn't fully covered their tracks. Data fragments, pulse trails, debris patterns, something Thorn's dying. I picked up as it gasped its last sparks of life. He projected it for us, a rotating map filled with vector lines, fuel emissions, and exit routes. Command ships pulled out toward the Galactic Rim, left behind cleanup crews and reapers, but this one leads to a core command point, a relay hub. "What are we supposed to do with that?" Kate had asked, arms crossed, eyes red with grief. 17 ships against an empire? Thorn didn't blink. "We don't win. We make them bleed." The room went quiet. That's when I spoke. "We hit the relay, hijack it, steal intel, learn what they fear. Then we turn their fear into our weapon." They all looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Earth was gone. My wife, my son, dust. There was nothing left to lose. Nothing left to protect. Only one thing left to destroy. We voted, unanimous. We became something else that day. Not soldiers, not survivors, predators. The plan was suicide, but it was clean. Fast, sharp. We'd move in waves. 3 ships would hit first. A distraction. Light up the relay's perimeter sensors. Give them something to chase. Then, while they danced with ghosts, the rest would slip in beneath the radar using cloaked signal dampeners. A boarding team would land, slice into the command core, and rip whatever they could before it all went to hell. Simple. Until it wasn't. Because we weren't just facing aliens. We were facing betrayal. 3 days before the op, Santos sent a coded burst. Short, panicked, and raw. Thorn's lying. Found coordinates he didn't share. Private cache. Hidden jump signature. He's not telling us everything. Then silence. I tried to reach him. Nothing. His ship, the Forge, stopped responding. Dead in the water. No beacon. No drift pattern. Just gone. Thorn claimed interference. Said maybe the ship's reactor blew. "That class was unstable," he muttered, avoiding my stare. But I saw it, the flicker in his eye. The same one I'd seen in smugglers who'd killed over cargo. Enslavers who sold kids off-world. He was hiding something. I confronted him in private, alone. Stupid move. "You killed him?" I asked flatly. Thorn didn't deny it. He was weak, panicked. He would have compromised the mission. I didn't flinch. "And you're the judge now?" "I'm the only one who's still thinking about the long war," he snapped. "Not just revenge, not just blood. Victory." "There's no victory, Thorn. There's only payback." He leaned in close, voice like gravel. "Then stay out of my way, Riker, or next time you'll drift too." I didn't report him. Couldn't. The others were fractured already. Another split would break us. So I lied. Said Santos's ship malfunctioned. Reactor failure. No remains. The mission went ahead. 3 ships peeled off for the distraction run. Thorn was among them. Of course he was. Always wanted the glory. I was part of the insertion team. Slipped through the net with Cade and Vern, riding a stolen mining skiff disguised as debris. No shields, no weapons, just silence and guts. We landed hard on the relay station's outer hull, magnetic boots, plasma torches, quiet cuts. Inside, it was a tomb. Alien tech buzzed and hummed, glowing in soft greens and purples. Clean, sterile, and cold. So damn cold. We moved fast, found the core room in under 4 minutes. Vern hacked while I covered the door. Cade watched the corridors with a sniper's calm. Then we heard it. Footsteps, not stomping, not charging, just walking, slow, measured. We froze. A shadow stepped into view. Not a soldier, not a monster, a man, human, wearing alien armor painted in their colors, eyes blank, skin pale, like he hadn't seen daylight in years. He looked at us and smiled. "Did you really think Earth was innocent?" he said. Cade fired first, right between the eyes, but the man didn't fall. He just laughed. The bullet should have taken his head off. Cade didn't miss. Ever. But when the shot hit, it was like the man's skull wasn't flesh, more like tempered glass, cracked but still intact. His body jerked, twisted unnaturally, and then straightened like nothing had happened. He looked at Cade with a smile that didn't belong on any human face. "Still clinging to your old instincts," he said softly. "It's cute." Vern froze behind the terminal. I felt the air change. The kind of cold that didn't just bite your skin, but stabbed into your bones. Something was wrong with that thing. Wrong in a way no weapon could fix. I stepped forward, leveling my rifle. "Who the hell are you?" He tilted his head like a curious dog. "Name doesn't matter. I had one once, before they showed me the truth." "Them," I muttered. "The ones who torched Earth?" "They saved me," he said. "From you, from your kind. You think humanity is worth something? You think you were innocent in all this?" Cade gritted his teeth. We didn't fire first. The man stepped closer, his boots clicking softly against the alien alloy floor. "Number you just expanded, colonized, consumed. You dug your claws into every moon and planet you could reach, stripped them bare, and called it progress. We were a virus. They were the cure." I didn't believe a damn word of it, but I could see it in his eyes. He did, completely, like a religious fanatic kneeling at the altar of genocide. "They took Earth," I growled. "They slaughtered children, wiped out cities, burned history." "And they left you alive," he whispered. "That was their mistake." Cade fired again. 2 rounds this time. Center mass. The man staggered, but didn't fall. Instead, he opened his mouth and screamed. It wasn't human. It was like every agony of the universe had been compressed into one sound. My ears bled. Vern dropped to his knees, clutching his head. Lights flickered. Alarms blared. The relay's core pulsed red. And then he charged. I only saw a blur. 1 second he was 10 meters away. The next he was slamming into Cade, driving him into the wall. Metal bent. Bones cracked. Cade coughed blood and screamed. I fired. The plasma bolt hit the freak in the back, finally slowing him. He spun, swinging Cade's limp body like a weapon. I dove, rolled, grabbed Vern, and dragged him towards the exit corridor. "Cade's dead," Vern gasped, eyes wide with shock. "He's dead, Riker." "Shut up and move!" We ran. The relay pulsed again. Emergency locks slammed into place. Whatever we'd triggered, it wasn't just alarms. It was a lockdown. A trap. The relay wasn't just a hub. It was a prison. And we'd walked right into it. Back in the corridor, my comms crackled. Thorne's voice, static-laced and sharp. "Riker, what the hell's going on down there? You tripped their internal AI net? We're losing Cloak," I barked back. "We've got one of ours, human-turned, augmented, some kind of puppet." Thorne didn't answer at first. Then kill it. We tried. But it wasn't that simple. The bastard wasn't just strong, he was fast. Wired into the station, and worst of all, He wasn't alone. More of them emerged from the walls, not full soldiers, prototypes, twisted half-finished mockeries of human form, limbs fused with synthetic tech, eyes glowing, skins pale and paper thin. We fought. Plasma bolts lit up the corridors. Vern rigged a mining charge to collapse part of the access tunnel. I dragged Cade's broken body out, what was left of him. He didn't make it. We reached the docking bay, where the skiff waited, still miraculously untouched. I shoved Vern inside, fired up the engines, and launched hard, straight through the half-closed hangar shield. Explosions rocked the station behind us. But we weren't safe. The relay had defenses we hadn't seen. Turrets folded out of its underbelly. Interceptors swarmed like hornets. Our skiff wasn't armed for a firefight. It was a tin can with thrusters. That's when Thorn came back. His voice boomed over comms. "Riker, on your 6. Then the Hammerfall burst through the void like a demon, guns blazing. Its hull was scarred, but its bite still had venom. Missiles tore through interceptors. Railguns shredded turret mounts. "Get clear!" he growled. "We'll cover you." I didn't argue. We burned hard for the rendezvous point behind a nearby asteroid cluster, limping, bleeding, but alive. When we docked, I carried Cade's body myself, laid him out in the cold storage unit next to what was left of Santos. 2 good men, gone. Thorn met me on the observation deck, helmet off, scarred face lit by the glow of wreckage outside. "Mission failed," I said. "No," he replied. "Mission changed." I turned to him. "That thing down there, it knew us. It talked like it had history. It believed in what they were doing." Thorn nodded slowly. "I know. You've seen them before." He didn't flinch. "Not just seen. I fought them." I clenched my jaw. "You've been lying since the beginning." "I did what I had to," he said quietly. "If I told you we were going up against something we once created, you'd have folded." That stopped me cold. "What?" Thorn looked at me, eyes tired. "Project Vesper, Black Site program, genetic enhancements, mind-linking tech. Started as a way to build the perfect soldier, ended with opening doors we should have welded shut." "You're telling me?" I stepped back, nausea rising. "We made them. We made the first. The rest followed." Silence fell between us. Heavy. Suffocating. "Earth's fall wasn't an invasion," Thorn said bitterly. "It was a reckoning." I stared at the stars, the empty void that had swallowed everything I loved. The fire in me didn't fade. It grew. "So now what?" I asked. "We just crawl into a corner and die?" He shook his head. "Number now we find their cradle, their origin, and we burn it down." I nodded. For Cade, for Santos, for my family, for Earth. We weren't done, not yet. We didn't speak of Earth anymore, not aloud. The word sat in our throats like glass, sharp, useless, and too dangerous to spit out. Every man left among us carried the same weight. The memories weren't fire and rubble anymore. They were faces, voices, small moments frozen in the final calm before the sky caved in. For me, it was my son's laugh. Cracked tooth, missing front incisor, giggling as he ran circles around our rusted backyard swing. That laugh haunted me more than any nightmare, because I couldn't remember how it ended. Just that it did. And now I knew why. Thorn had lied, but not entirely. The truth he dumped on us after the relay op hit like a slug to the gut. Project Vesper. That was the name stitched into every classified file. A black site program buried under layers of deniability, hidden even from top-tier defense networks. Run by a coalition of Earth's last real power blocks, its goal was grotesquely simple. Build a better human, not metaphorically, literally. Better reaction time, better pain resistance, neural link access, empathy suppression, adaptability at a cellular level. They weren't just making super soldiers. They were forging a new branch of humanity, something colder, smarter, cleaner, something less human. The problem was, Vesper worked. It worked too well. The first batch, called Frames, had a 98% fatality rate. But the survivors? Monsters. Smarter than their creators, stronger, immune to emotional compromise, and worst of all, curious. They didn't want to serve. They wanted to evolve. And they did. Rapidly. Behind closed doors, they began networking, literally, brain-to-brain links, shared memory caches, a kind of hive intelligence. Quiet, subtle, until it wasn't. One of them hijacked a communications relay and transmitted their collective consciousness beyond the solar system. No one knew what signal it was. Maybe a distress call, maybe a mating cry, maybe a declaration of war. Either way, something answered. Not aliens in the way we understood them, more like distant echoes of failed civilizations, beings who'd burned themselves into extinction and left behind only digital ghosts. These entities latched onto the Vesper frames like parasites on fresh meat, enhanced them, changed them, fused with them. That's what came back. That's what slaughtered Earth. We called them the Hollow. It wasn't a name they gave themselves. They didn't speak in words, didn't care for identity. They were the walking consequence of man's arrogance, his attempt to play God with flesh and code. And now they were everywhere, not just in the fleet that crushed our world, but scattered throughout systems we hadn't even charted. Colonies had gone dark, mining rigs silenced, entire trade routes vanished. The Hollow didn't occupy. They erased. And somehow, Thorn wanted us to go to them. The coordinates we'd pulled from the relay before it went to hell weren't just a node or a command ship. They pointed to a system deep in the galactic underbelly, a red dwarf surrounded by a cloud of artificial debris. Their cradle, where the first Vesper subjects went after they broke free. Think of it like a brain stem, Thorn told us. It's not their home, it's their memory, their birth point. Destroy it and you might not kill them, but you'll cut off their roots. The rest of the survivors gathered on the Hammerfall, packed into the war room with nothing left but bad tempers and worse ideas. Cade's absence was a gaping wound, but no one said his name. Just silent nods. Muted stares. "I say we blow it and get the hell out," Vern said, arms crossed. "No hero crap, no infiltration, just hit it from orbit and vanish." "That won't work," I replied. "You can't bomb something you don't understand. What if it's not a structure? What if it's alive?" He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Alive?" Thorn nodded. "He's right. This isn't a bunker. It's a mind. A data core, yes, but also a living network. Part machine, part biology, part something else." Santos's brother Malik, quiet until now, spoke up. "You want us to board that thing?" "Yes," Thorn said, "and burn it from the inside." The silence that followed was thick. He might as well have asked us to walk into a black hole. But no one said no, because saying no meant waiting to die in space, a slow drift into starvation or madness. And we were done waiting. We moved. 17 ships became 6. The rest were left behind, too damaged or stripped for parts. We loaded every ounce of explosive we had, retrofitted sensor masks, and charted a path straight through dead systems and ancient war zones to the red dwarf Thorn called the Nest. It took 6 days. On the 5th, we lost one more, Raven's ship. No distress call, no explosion, just gone from the scanner. One moment she was there, the next, nothing but vacuum. We didn't stop. On the 6th day, we arrived. I'll never forget what I saw. A star flickering weakly like a dying ember, surrounded by a swirling ring of wreckage. Ships, stations, whole planets, pulverized into dust and repurposed as armor. And in the center, floating like a tumor wrapped in steel, was the nest. It looked like a brain the size of a moon, pulsing, breathing, covered in antennae and glowing with soft, rhythmic light. It wasn't just a structure, it was aware. "Jesus," Vern whispered. "That's not tech?" "No," I said. "That's a mistake that learned how to survive." We approached in formation, power dampened, cloaks on, no radio chatter, just silence and a countdown. At 0 hour, Thorn gave the order. "Go loud." We hit it like thunder. Plasma bolts lit the void. Missiles screamed through space. My ship, the Omen, dove low, skimming the debris field while the others kept fire concentrated on the nest's neural stalks, those long, twisted conduits connecting its core to the field around it. It didn't respond immediately. For 10 seconds, we thought we'd caught it off guard. Then it screamed. Not sound. Signal. A burst that tore through every sensor, every comm line, every neural implant. Vern started seizing. Malik passed out. My vision blurred with static and blood, and from the debris, they came. The hollow. Ships made of bone and steel, living metal. Some shaped like daggers, others like insects. They didn't form ranks. They swarmed. The Hammerfall took the brunt, its guns carving through the first wave before a hollow ship rammed it head-on. A flash. An implosion. The flagship was gone. Thorn was gone. I screamed orders into the static, trying to regroup what was left. 3 ships, no cohesion, no chance. And that's when I made the call. I dove into the nest. The Omen broke atmosphere, or whatever passed for it. Through a rupture one of our missiles had opened. Inside, it was worse than hell. Tubes like veins, walls like organs, and everywhere, eyes, watching, recording. I took the explosives, rigged them to the core, and set the countdown. 5 minutes. That's all I had. On the way out, I saw them. The originals, frames, still alive, still human in shape, but warped, stretched, changed. They didn't stop me. They just stared, like statues made of regret. Maybe they remembered what they were. Maybe they knew what was coming. I barely made it out. The Omen breached the hull as the charge went off, and the nest buckled. Flames and light and twisted data poured into the void. A pulse rolled across space, one final scream, and then silence. The hollow didn't vanish. They didn't die, but they fled. Their ships spun, scrambled, retreated like insects doused in fire. Whatever we'd hit, whatever nerve we'd burned, it hurt them. Deep. We had drawn blood. Now we knew how. The nest burned for hours. Even from deep orbit, we could see the tendrils of fire curling through the wreckage, turning once living circuits into ash. And inside that churning mess, inside what used to be the Hollow's mind, we'd left a scar. But scars don't end wars. They start new ones. We lost 5 ships in the assault. Thorn went out like he probably wanted. Fighting, cursing, alone. Vern's ship was torn in half by a hollow leech craft. Malik died trying to shield a smaller escape pod with his own hull. That left 2. The Omen, limping and scorched. And Scythe, a refitted mining rig piloted by Reyes, the quiet bastard who never spoke unless you needed someone dead. We didn't celebrate, we didn't mourn. We reloaded. It took Reyes 3 days to repair our comms and decrypt the signal fragments still clinging to the wreckage. Most of it was noise, binary screaming, corrupted memories, sensory loops. But buried in that madness, we found something real. A location, not a stronghold, a meeting point, a hollow convergence site. Somewhere they were retreating to, somewhere off-grid, in the fringes of a nebula so thick it ate sensor waves like candy. Reyes showed me the data in the dark of Scythe's bridge, his face hollowed out by exhaustion and grief. "They're calling others," he said. "Or rebuilding. I don't know, but it's a rally point." Could be a trap, I said. He nodded. Don't care. Neither did I. We had 2 ships, dwindling supplies, and maybe 40 hours of life left in our oxygen reserves. But we had one thing they didn't: rage. The jump into the nebula nearly tore us apart. No nav points, no visuals, just gravity wells and dead space. We hit turbulence so hard the Omen's left thruster blew out, forcing me to steer on a manual throttle, bleeding fuel into the void. But when we emerged, there it was. Not a fleet, not a base, a graveyard, tens of thousands of hollow ships, drifting in a silent orbit around a dead star, each one damaged, scarred, some split in half, some pulsing faintly with dying light. They're sleeping, Reyes whispered. Not sleeping, regenerating, feeding. The wreckage of other species, ships we'd never seen, hulls shaped like wings, bodies curled in fetal positions, was being absorbed, melted into the hollow craft like they were growing skin from stolen corpses. And in the center of the graveyard, hanging in stillness like a god watching his own funeral, was a vessel unlike anything we'd seen before. Bigger than a moon, black as oil, alive. Its surface pulsed like a heartbeat, covered in spines and twitching antennae, and there, along the dorsal ridge, were faces, human faces, dozens, hundreds, stretched across the hull like trophies. I recognized one, Cade, fused to the metal, his expression frozen in a silent scream. Reyes turned away, vomiting into his helmet. I didn't move. I couldn't. That wasn't just a ship. It was a memory, a collector. It had pulled the minds and DNA of every human it had consumed and fused them into itself, using them as both record and warning. And maybe fuel. I whispered. That's where they all went. Reyes didn't answer. He was too busy priming the explosives. We didn't discuss a plan. There was no tactical advantage, no stealth route. We were outgunned, outmanned, out of our goddamn minds. But I'd stared into the mouth of extinction and lived. I didn't come this far to run, so we charged. Scythe peeled off, launching mining torpedoes rigged with ion destabilizers. I followed behind, firing every last plasma burst the Omen had, screaming across comms as the hollow stirred. They didn't wake like creatures. They responded like a machine. Instantly. Their ships activated, engines flaring to life, wings snapping open like insect mandibles. But not to fight, to protect, to shield that thing in the center. It wasn't just a vessel, it was a queen, and I was aiming for her throat. We broke formation just as the first wave of hollow drones hit us. They didn't fire. They latched on, clawed, bit, like parasites. Reyes went silent. His ship spiraled out of control, a dozen hollow craft chewing through his hull. Then his voice crackled in. I'm going in. Manual override, full burn. I knew what that meant. Don't be stupid, I snapped. We can regroup. Not regrouping, Riker. Static. Go for her. I'll clear you a path. Then Scythe roared. Its engines overclocked. The hull glowed white-hot. Reyes drove that old mining rig straight into the swarm, punching through hollow after hollow, torpedoes screaming out of its cargo bay in waves. One hit the Queen. She flinched. Not visibly, but in the data, in the static. My systems spiked. The air inside the Omen turned cold. She was angry. Reyes didn't stop, until he did. Scythe detonated in a flash so bright it turned the nebula pink. The shockwave cracked the hollow formation. Dozens of their craft spiraled into each other, colliding, shattering. That was my chance. I dove, straight toward the Queen. Her surface opened like a blooming flower, rows of flesh-covered panels parting to reveal a maw of spinning blades and twitching wires. I didn't hesitate. I crashed into her. The hull split, and I was inside. The last part of this war was done on foot. The insides were worse than any nightmare. Flesh walls, pulsing veins, whispers in languages I almost understood, like my own thoughts were being rewritten in real time. My helmet's interface flickered, voices leaking through, my son's laugh, my wife's scream. I pressed forward, through tunnels of bone, through corridors that bled, until I found it. A core, not a reactor, a heart. Human, at first glance, beating, wet, covered in data nodes and old Earth tech, military servers grafted into raw tissue. This was where they stored us, our memories, our pain, everything they took. I placed the last of my charges on the base of the heart. 30 seconds. I turned away and saw her. A woman, or what used to be one. Naked, beautiful, skin gray, eyes pitch black, arms too long, too elegant. She didn't move, just stared. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice was layered. Mine, Thorn's, Reyes's, everyone. "Because you didn't kill us all," I said. And then I left. The blast ripped through the Queen like a virus, lighting up her internals, shredding her data, her flesh, her hive mind. I escaped in a drop pod, blind, deaf, running on fumes. I didn't look back. Because I didn't need to. I'd killed a god. And I wasn't done yet. The drop pod spun through space like a dying prayer. No fuel, no navigation. Just charred panels, a cracked viewport, and the faint hiss of oxygen leaking from somewhere I couldn't reach. Every minute stretched like a lifetime, and every breath was laced with smoke and blood. I don't know how long I drifted. Hours, maybe days. Time didn't exist out there, just cold silence and memory. And voices. Not hallucinations. I'd heard those before. Ghosts of dead friends, the whimper of my son in the fire, my wife calling my name. Those I'd learned to ignore. But these were different. "You think it's over, Riker?" It sounded like Reyes. She wasn't the end. She was the beginning. Then silence again. I don't know if it was real. Maybe it was a fragment of the Queen still clinging to my mind. Maybe part of her got in before the heart went dark. Or maybe it was me. Breaking. Either way, I didn't die. Someone found me. I woke up in a med bay. Bare bones, patched with scraps of old Earth tech and alien grafts. The air smelled of recycled metal and ammonia. A woman sat at my side. Mid-30s, short black hair, no insignia, one eye gone. "You Riker?" she asked. I nodded, tried to speak, failed. She handed me a flask. The water was warm and tasted like rust, but it worked. "You died for 3 minutes," she said. "Brought you back with a cardiac spike and dumb luck. You're tougher than you look." "Where am I?" I croaked. "Refuge, one of the last. We picked up your beacon near the edge of the ash belt." That name meant nothing to me. None of it did. My brain was still rebooting. "You destroyed her," she added. "We saw the collapse. The Queen's pulse went dark. Every hollow ship in the nearby systems went cold. Some turned on each other. The rest just drifted." I sat up slowly. My ribs ached. My hands shook. "How many survivors?" she asked. "Less than 5,000, across a dozen stations. Scattered, starved, scared." And just like that, the weight came crashing back. We had won a battle, not the war. Because wars don't end when the monster dies. They end when the memory of the monster does. And no one forgets the hollow. "They're still out there," I muttered. "Fragments, cells, pieces of her." The woman, her name was Mara, nodded. "We know. They're reorganizing. Faster than we expected. It's not over." I looked around the room. Bare walls, old tech. No comfort, no hope. "Then let's make it hell for them," I said. The next few weeks were a blur of rehab, recon, and reality. Mara ran a station called Keel Point, hidden inside the carcass of a derelict moon mining operation. What it lacked in resources, it made up for in attitude. Everyone there had lost something. No civilians, no tourists, just fighters, engineers, broken minds with unbreakable wills. They patched me up, gave me a corner to sleep in, and fed me rations that tasted like boiled rubber. And still, it was better than anything I'd had since Earth died. Reyes was gone. Cade, Thorn, Santos, all of them just ashes in the void. But I was still breathing. So I started planning. The Hollow Queen was dead, but her spawns were still scattered through the galaxy like blood vessels. We tracked signal pings, echoes of her neural net, weak, damaged but alive. They weren't rebuilding, they were multiplying. Every ship we captured, every wreck we scraped data from, told the same story. The Hollow had protocols, fail-safes. If the Queen died, secondary cores would activate. Not as strong, not as smart, but faster. Less memory, more instinct. They were evolving backward, turning from gods into beasts, and beasts could be hunted. I pulled a team from Mara's ranks, men and women who didn't ask why, just how. There was Jex, a former shock trooper who carried a thermal blade longer than his arm and hadn't spoken since his family got eaten alive during the siege of Callisto. Aaron, a tech freak with implants running from skull to spine, half blind from exposure but sharper than any AI I'd met. And Kren, a quiet woman who used to run Black Ops for some Earth faction long dead. Her left arm was synthetic, her eyes glowed dim blue, and her loyalty was to pain. Together we formed Ash Team 1. Our mission was simple: find hollow spawns, kill them, burn their cores, repeat. The first hit was a test. A cargo relay orbiting a gas giant in the edge of the Nalari belt, abandoned save for the drones still circling it. Hollow recon units, stripped of identity and crawling with stolen tech. We didn't talk, just hit hard. Kren hacked the entry codes. Jex led the breach. I torched the internal AI. Aaron set the charges. The explosion painted the system in white fire. And in the debris, we found something we didn't expect. A child. Human. Curled in a pod, wired to the walls. Still alive? Barely. Mara's people pulled him out. His brain was fused to hollow software, an experiment maybe, or a mistake. Either way, it proved something terrifying. They were trying to replace us, grow us, breed a new version. Why use humans again? I asked. Mara shook her head. Because they were never trying to wipe us out. They were trying to overwrite us. That changed everything. The Hollow weren't just enemies. They were reflections, a twisted mirror of humanity's desire to evolve without consequence, our hunger for control, for permanence. The second mission went worse. We hit a spawn ship over the remnants of a dead colony, thought it was unarmed. It wasn't. Jex died first, sliced in half by a sentient defense drone. Kren followed, dragging Aaron into an escape chute as the floor collapsed beneath her. I barely made it out. One ship, one pod, one survivor. Back at Keel Point, Mara looked at me with those tired eyes and asked the question I'd been avoiding since the nest burned. What are we even fighting for anymore, Riker? I stared at the stars, the void, the endless black. We're not fighting to win, I said. We're fighting to make sure the next bastard thinks twice before starting another experiment. She didn't argue, because she knew the truth. We weren't saving humanity. We were punishing it, one hollow at a time. The days blurred into each other after Kren and Jex died. I didn't bury them. There was nothing left to bury. Their remains were scattered in orbit over a failed colony, turned to molten dust in the blast that took out the hollow nest. Maybe that was fitting. This war wasn't about graves anymore. It was about wreckage, leaving more of theirs behind than ours. Aaron survived, barely. But the blast damaged his neural implants. He couldn't speak without twitching, couldn't sleep without screaming. Mara sedated him, but I saw it in her face. He wouldn't last long. And I was tired. Not in my bones, tired in my soul. I'd spent so long chasing death that I forgot what life looked like. The station's corridors were filled with quiet desperation. People mending oxygen scrubbers with duct tape. Kids learning math from old pre-war tablets. No one laughed. Not really. They just endured. And yet, somehow, that was more powerful than revenge. I started noticing little things. A man sharing his only blanket with a stranger. A woman teaching a child how to read from burnt manuals. A scavenger leaving behind half his ration pack because someone else looked hungrier. Maybe humanity wasn't as broken as we thought. But the Hollow weren't done. The data we pulled from the last attack showed something terrifying. The spawn cores weren't spreading randomly. They were converging, drawn to a signal. One last signal. The source was an old communications array built into the edge of a collapsed wormhole, something we'd once used to send deep space messages during Earth's expansion era. Now it pulsed with hollow code. We called it the Spine. Because if it went online, if it connected every remaining hollow ship across the system, it'd be the nervous system of a new queen. A stronger one, faster, meaner, smarter. And this time she wouldn't inherit human flaws. She'd be pure, uncompromising, unstoppable. I stood in Keelpoint's war room, staring at the projection of the Spine as Mara detailed its defenses. Dozens of hollow ships swarmed it like wasps. Shield networks, organic AI that adapted to threats in real time. This wasn't an assault. It was a suicide mission. And I was tired of suicide missions. "We can't win this," Mara said. "We've got 70 fighters left, Max. We send them all, we lose them all." "I don't care about winning," I said. "I care about stopping that thing before it becomes her." She turned away. "What happens after that, Riker? Say we blow it. Say we erase the Hollow completely. What's left?" I had no answer, because I didn't know. Did we rebuild? Repopulate? Start over with the same arrogance that got us here? Or did we vanish, quietly, in the empty dark? Mara looked at me like she already knew what I was thinking. "You want to die fighting. That's easy. You think redemption lives in fire." "It might," I said. "No," she snapped. "It lives in rebuilding, in suffering through every damn day knowing you don't get to forget. You don't get to burn out in glory. You stay, you endure, you lead." I didn't want that. But maybe I needed it. Still, I owed the dead something. And the Hollow weren't done paying. We launched with every ship we had. 70 fighters, 2 corvettes, 5 jury-rigged civilian haulers loaded with makeshift bombs. Every pilot was a volunteer. No promises, no return. We jumped blind into the Spine system, caught the Hollow mid-construction. Their AI didn't hesitate. Neither did we. Explosions lit the void. Our fighters scattered the outer ring. The corvettes rammed through the defense perimeter. One was torn apart by organic cannons. The other, Mara's personal ship, took out half the shield array before detonating with a nuclear burst. The haulers dove straight into the core, igniting payloads that melted the outer hull. And I went in alone. Again. The Omen was half rusted, missing one engine patched with stolen alien parts, but she still answered when I called. She still bled light when I throttled hard into the breach. Inside the Spine, it was chaos, noise, static, shifting floors that turned into walls. The AI was building itself in real time, adapting to my path, sealing off routes, opening others, a maze without mercy. But I'd been here before. I found the neural core, a mass of throbbing black roots, sparking with red light. Faces were there too. New ones, children, women, whole families absorbed in data, souls weaponized. I planted the charge. 10 minutes. Then a voice. Familiar, cold. "You've come far, Riker." It was her, the Queen, not reborn but echoing through her children. "But you can't erase evolution." She appeared in front of me, just as she had before. That same beautiful horror, that impossible grace. "You're not real," I growled. "Neither are you," she replied. "You're just pain pretending to be purpose." She wasn't wrong. But I didn't care. I pulled the trigger. The core lit up like a sun. The floor collapsed. The walls screamed. My body was flung through the chaos, and for a second I thought I was dead. But I woke up. Again, in a drop pod. Again, floating in a field of fire. And this time, no hollow followed. No echo chased me. Just silence. Keel Point was still standing when I returned. Barely. Half the station had gone dark. Oxygen systems failing. Food stores ruined. But the people, they were alive. Mara didn't make it. Her ship had gone up with the shield burst. She knew it would. She'd made her peace with staying behind. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I stayed. Not to fight. To rebuild. We rewired the systems, replanted crops, taught the kids how to hold a wrench instead of a gun. I led. Not like Thorn, not like a soldier, like a man with nothing left to lose but time. The Hollow were gone. For now. But even if they came back, we'd be ready. Not because we were stronger, because we were human. And humanity isn't perfect. It's angry, flawed, self-destructive. But it survives, it endures. And when the next war comes, we'll still be here, waiting. The war ended in silence. No celebration, no parades, no triumphant speeches, just a slow, choking stillness. Like the galaxy had been holding its breath for so long, it forgot how to exhale. The Hollow were gone. At least that's what the scanners said. Every known signal had gone dark. The relay pings, the hive pulses, the echo trails. They stopped like someone had yanked the plug on the universe's most terrifying nightmare. But I didn't believe it. Not really. Because things like the Hollow, things born from our own ambition, our arrogance, our hunger to improve ourselves without paying the price, don't just vanish. They hide, they evolve, they wait. And so did we. Keel Point became a cradle, not a stronghold, not a fortress, a womb. We rebuilt. Not for war, but for survival. Reclaimed oxygen scrubbers, harvested protein from algae blooms, constructed hydroponic towers using pieces of old drop pods and ship guts. I led, not with commands, but with presence. I didn't bark orders. I worked alongside the others. Fixed busted water lines, hauled salvage, dug graves. There were too many graves. We didn't have stone, so we burned names into metal scraps and welded them into a wall outside the station's airlock. Cade, Reyes, Mara, Kren, Jex, Thorn, and 1,000 others. Sometimes I'd stand there for hours, just tracing the grooves in their names with my fingers, reminding myself why I was still here. Other times, I dreamed. Nightmares, mostly. Of the Queen. Of her voice in my head, whispering things I wanted to forget. Of Earth, burning in slow motion. But one dream came back more than the others. My son's face, not on fire, not screaming, just smiling, watching me work. Silent, peaceful. I didn't know what it meant. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. A year passed, then 2. We made contact with another survivor colony near the edge of the Karan Drift, less than 400 souls. Malnourished, irradiated, half-mad. But alive. We welcomed them, shared what we had. Word spread. More came. Drifters, smugglers, engineers. One ship full of ex-prisoners who swore they'd turned over a new leaf. I didn't ask what crimes they'd committed. Didn't care. If they wanted to work, to live, they were welcome. Humanity wasn't a species anymore. It was a club. If you made it through the fire, you were in. We built outposts, grew our own food, created schools, not to teach war, but history. Real history. We didn't glorify Earth. We told the truth. About Vesper, about the Hollow, about what we did, about what we became, and what we had to be now, better. Maybe the universe wouldn't forgive us. But maybe we could learn to forgive ourselves. 3 years after the fall of the spine, the signal returned. Faint, short, encrypted with hollow code. I was in the hydroponic bay, fixing a coolant leak, when the alert flashed across my tablet. It wasn't an attack. It wasn't even a threat. Just 3 words. She remembers you. It came from a dead sector, one we hadn't mapped, one no ship could reach without burning half its mass in the process. I sat with it for hours, didn't tell the others, not at first. What was the point? They deserved peace. They'd earned it. But that message, it was meant for me. So I went. Alone. No fanfare, no goodbye speech, just a quiet exit at 0 hour, my ship packed with fuel, ammo, and questions. The sector was beyond ruined. Black stars, dead moons, fields of shattered metal drifting in cold gravity. I found her there, not the queen. Something smaller, a fragment, floating like a seed. It wasn't shaped like a ship. It was shaped like a child. Human, barely adolescent, eyes closed, hands folded. Alive. Inside, the systems were familiar. Same hybrid biotech, same hollow language. But the memory banks were wiped clean. She, because she was a she, wasn't like the queen. She was blank, not corrupted, not violent, just empty. Waiting. I didn't shoot her, I couldn't. Because in her chest, beating softly, was a rhythm I hadn't heard in years. A human heartbeat. I brought her back. They nearly killed me for it. Even Mara's replacement, Lena, a hard woman with steel in her voice and grief carved into her face, wanted her spaced. But I didn't budge. This isn't another queen, I told them. This is a chance. For what? She spat. Another war? Another monster? No, I said. To understand what we became, what they became, to stop repeating it. They gave me 1 week, 7 days to prove the girl, whom we named Ash, wasn't a threat. She never spoke, but she learned, fast. She watched us, I mean really watched, every movement, every mistake, every gesture. And she mimicked us, not like a hollow, not mechanically, curiously. She liked to draw, not with screens, real charcoal, made from burned bio-waste. She'd sit in the corner of the common room and sketch what she saw. One day she handed me a picture. It was me, holding her hand, walking through fire. Neither of us were burning. I kept that picture, still have it. Ash grew fast, not physically. She stayed small, maybe 10 years old. But mentally, she was a storm. We ran tests, gentle ones. She let us take samples, scan her neural patterns, study the grafts in her bones. What we found was terrifying. She wasn't hollow. She wasn't human. She was both, but balanced. Where the hollow rejected emotion, Ash craved it. Where humanity feared logic, Ash embraced it. She was evolution, done right. I started dreaming again. This time of futures, of cities in orbit, of farms on distant moons, of Ash standing on a platform showing children how to build without destruction. Hope, drawn in charcoal. Some people still feared her. That's okay. Fear is part of growth. But others saw what I saw. Possibility. She started teaching. Not directly, she didn't speak much, but she'd point, guide, correct, not like a machine, like a mentor. One day I watched a 6-year-old boy ask her why stars died. She didn't explain it with math. She just drew one. Bright at first, then dimming, then gone. And the boy nodded like he understood something words couldn't explain. That's when I knew. We were going to be okay. I'm old now. My bones ache in the cold. My hands don't work like they used to. My ship's grounded. My weapons are sealed in a vault I haven't opened in years. But I don't need them anymore. Because the fire's out. And the rebuilding has begun. Ash leads now, not like a ruler, like a gardener. She tends to us. teaches us, pushes us gently toward the light. Some call her a goddess. She hates that. She tells them when she does speak. I'm not a queen. And I believe her, because queens rule from fear. Ash leads from memory, and I'll die knowing that the massacre, the pain, the loss, it wasn't the end. It was the cost. The brutal, necessary cost of evolution. We paid it in blood. And in that blood we grew something worth keeping. Humanity, but better.